Hi, I'm Sam Thurgood and welcome to my 5-minute parsha. In our week's Torah reading of Kedoshim, we have some of the most mitzvah-dense, mitzvah-intensive sections of the entire Torah, where mitzvah after mitzvah is given in a very short amount of time. And the one that I want to focus on, but it branches out to several others, is the mitzvah of lo ta'ashok. Do not financially oppress somebody else. One of the 613 commandments is a mitzvah not to withhold money that is rightfully owing to another person. So what happens is, if I owe someone money, the time for me to pay them back that money is due, and yet, for whatever reason, I am choosing not to, and I'm delaying them, and I'm putting them off, and I'm making excuses. The second I say to the person, you know what, rather come back tomorrow, or oh, there was a problem with the pay, I'll sort it out some other time, rather than putting my hand in my pocket and giving him the money, I've actually broken one of these 613 mitzvot of the Torah. And the Sefer HaChinuch wants to know, what is the difference between this mitzvah and theft? Theft is when I go into somebody's house and take something when they're not looking. Or robbery, where I walk up to the guy and threaten him unless he gives me what he's got. What's the difference between not paying the person back and between going into their house and taking it? And his answer is, nothing. Nothing. There's absolutely no difference. Halachically, the two are viewed as identical. The fact that in case number one, I'm simply not giving him money that I owe him. In case number two, I'm going and taking his money. In both cases, this is a situation where I illegally am in possession of somebody else's money. And in fact, he takes it a step further. You will also transgress this with another mitzvah that comes up right afterwards in the Torah, the mitzvah of not paying your worker on time. You employed somebody, you agreed on the wage, and you agreed on the date that you would pay them that wage. If that day passes, if you allow that time to pass, if it's factors beyond your control, okay. But if you allow that time to pass without paying them, then you have transgressed several mitzvot. He counts 4 or 5 that can be violated in this way. There's a separate mitzvah of paying your worker on time. There's this mitzvah of lo ta'ashok. Do not oppress them. Do not hold back money that's really theirs. There's the mitzvah of lo tigzol. Don't forcibly take somebody else's money, because that's exactly what's taking place, what's being demonstrated over here. And so the point that he comes out with is, he says, these mitzvot are repeated several times, but not because they are different concepts. It's because Hashem wants to clearly define the parameters of it, but also to emphasize to us so strongly how despicable it is, how completely unacceptable it is to be in possession of somebody else's money in a case where you shouldn't be. You owe them the money, you got to pay them back the money. I'm always reminded of the story of Rabbi Mordechai Katz of the Telz Yeshiva, where somebody asked him, they said, how do you explain all of these religious Jews who go around cheating people in business? Rabbi Katz said, it's a good question, but before I answer, how do you explain all of these religious Jews who don't keep kosher and don't keep Shabbat? Question, of course, replied, such a person shouldn't be defined as a religious Jew. To which Rabbi Katz said, and somebody who breaks all of these mitzvot in the Torah, somehow that could be considered a religious Jew. We know that Hashem is not a God of rituals only. Hashem is a holistic God, and Judaism is a holistic system for living holiness in every aspect of our life. And so when it comes to being in illegal possession of somebody's money, we could break so very many mitzvot. The Torah says that must be treated with absolute full seriousness. Lo ta'ashok, do not judge somebody else. And you should always look very carefully. Do I have money that belongs to somebody else? Am I prompt on all of my payments? To be prompt on every payment and every time that you owe money to somebody, to pay them immediately when it's due? That is a great mitzvah, and we should be as strict about that mitzvah as we are about any other mitzvah. If we have any doubt regarding the laws of Shabbat, we're very careful. Any doubt in kashrut, we're very careful. We should be equally careful when it comes to these mitzvot. And some of the benefits, of course, as well, is that apart from having this good and honest relationship with Hashem, by having this kind of relationship with other people, it creates more shalom, creates more peace in the world. How many times do we have terrible breakdowns of relationships because of either financial dishonesty or financial misunderstandings? And through an absolute commitment to integrity and uprightness in everything that we do, we will not only stand before Hashem with clean hands and a pure heart, but we will create a society in which those values are held to be prime and supreme, and a world of shalom, which really was the purpose of the Torah, to create such a world. Shabbat Shalom.